There's an old saying with regard to these get-rich-quick schemes. When a man with experience meets a man with money, the man with money is going to end up with the experience, and the man with experience will end up with the money. So you'll find that the newspapers, magazines, and television are all full of get-rich-quick schemes, because there are always people who think it's possible to get rich quick, get rich easy. All you have to do is find a trick or a gimmick. And there's an enormous number of people who say, rich people are just lucky. They just had a gimmick. They just had a trick. The fact is that the rich have been studied at great length. It takes about 22 years from the time you decide to become a millionaire before you hit $1 million net worth. I think it's about 22 years on average, based on the studies of many thousands and tens of thousands of self-made millionaires. People say, wow, that's a long time. If it is, get on with it. So people start at 20. By the age of 42, they're millionaires. By the age of 45, they're dual millionaires. By the age of 50 or 55, because as we say, the first million is hard, the second million is inevitable. So, what you do is you have to make the first million. Why? Because you have to become a very different, disciplined, higher form of human being to actually make such a contribution, that you actually earn and hold on to more than $1 million. It forces you to become somebody really different than you've ever been before. Financial freedom is a real big issue today. Financial freedom means that you don't worry about money. Worries about money, by the way, are the #1 reason for marital breakdown. Worries, disagreements, arguments over money. So if you have problems with money, they affect your relationship. If you have problems in your relationship, they affect your health. If you have problems with your health, it affects your peace of mind. And money is a major issue. We've been living through the most affluent country in the most affluent time in all of human history for the last 50 years. We've grown up in a level of affluence that is unimaginable for 95% of the world. And we have come to believe that this is what we're entitled to. You grow up in America, you're entitled to a fat life. One of the things that is leading to major social disruptions is a lot of people are finding that it's not true anymore. If you want to be financially successful, you won't have to work very, very hard. You're going to have to get up early and hit it hard and work all day and work into the evening. You're going to have to work 6 days a week. There's no wealthy people who work 5 days a week. None. There's no successful people who work 5 days a week, because if you work 5 days a week, you actually only work about 4. And you start late, you leave early, and you waste time all day long. Successful people work long days, and they work into the weekends. However, they're doing something they enjoy, and they're doing something they get tremendous satisfaction from because they're making progress. And as a result, it's really not work. You know the old rule? I found something I love to do, and I never worked again the rest of my life. I worked 7 days a week, but I never worked a day. And you'll find that when you do that, which you will before we're finished, when you start to find what it is that you would love to do, and put your whole heart into it, you never work again. And you get paid more than you ever dreamed of. And you don't even care. You don't even count the money anymore because you're just getting so much satisfaction from using yourself at the very highest level. So financial freedom, this is something we people have to start thinking about. The worst thing you can do today is to be in debt. As you know, as they say, the debt comes and goes, but the interest payments stay forever. And it's the interest that kills you. It's the constant payment. Look at that. So one of our goals is to achieve financial freedom. And this isn't something that happens by accident. We don't say, well, geez, I'm not sure I'm financially free this morning. No. But what we have to do is we have to set it down and make a plan. And we have to work on it for a long, long time. It's not something you can do once. It's something you need to do throughout your career. And too many people today are deeply in debt. You know that 70% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck? 70% of Americans. What that means is that they have no money. They have no reserves. The average American family, at the age of 40, for the major breadwinner, has a total net worth of about $40,000. And that's including the equity in their home. At the age of 60, they have a net worth of about $62,000. An average of about $1,000 a year. Most people without pensions, that's why there's so much political controversy. Without pensions, most people would be destitute. They'd be impoverished because they have nothing. 70% have nothing. Why? It's not because they haven't earned a lot of money. You know that if you save $100 a month for your entire working lifetime, you'd be worth more than $1 million when you retire? $100 a month? If somebody put a gun to your head, could you save $100 a month? Well, it does. And people don't even save that. They spend it. They buy stuff they don't need to impress people they don't like. So here's where we start with our entrepreneurs. We say there are 4 keys. 1 is to clarify. Clarity is 95% of your success. Be absolutely clear about who you are, what you want, and your goals. 2nd is to simplify. Simplify means to delegate, outsource, and eliminate low-value, no-value tasks and activities in your life. In other words, look at the things you do in your life that contribute very little to your success, but you keep doing them anyway. And you'll find that about 80% of your life is trivia. Remember the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do accounts for 80% of your results, success, rewards, satisfaction, happiness, joy. Everything is in the top 20%, which means the bottom 80% could be cut out completely and have no negative effect on your life. What do most people spend most of their time on? Bottom 80%. Television watching, since the last time we did this seminar just a few months ago. At that time it was 150 hours a month for the average adult in America. It's up to 158 hours in less than a year. Average Americans watching 5.5 to 6 hours, jumping up over 5 hours of television per day. Average non-adult, what is on social media, 5 hours a day. Television watching, by the way, for young people is dropping dramatically. The networks are going bonkers. But it's older people who are not high-tech. They watch television 5 hours a day. Just imagine if you took 2 of those hours and you read something worthwhile. You'd be rich in a few years. Television makes you poor. They did an interesting study. They took people, socioeconomic categories, Wall Street Journal. They found as you went down the socioeconomic categories to the poorest of the poor, they had no books in their homes and the biggest televisions they could afford. As you went up to the top, and they watched about 7 hours of television a day. As the band began to go up in terms of income, television watching decreased until they got to the top 5 or 10%. These people, it's very seldom watch television. They would pre-record something and watch it at their leisure later on in the evenings or on the weekends. Very seldom watch television, and their homes were full of books. So if you wanted to get into the top 10%, what you do is you have to do things that the top 10% of people do. Thank you.